Thunder Dave Steinman claims to have invented Mio Energy and to therefore be the natural choice for spokesperson of the brand.
Mio Energy is the greatest source of energy ever discovered.
Just hit the tag for me. Personal, portable, Mio Energy.
I just went on a vision quest.
I want to get your take, if you have any. What's your take on Bob?
Bob Sapp.
How'd you know? How'd you know?
Oh, I was actually going to bring him up before this day was over.
Wow.
Because I was very entertained by
That's
by
unbelievable.
his interview with you and his backpedaling and his justification of the sham that he is proceeding through the sport of MMA.
I can't
My
believe.
question for you is,
Yeah,
why
sure.
do these promoters think he's worth $850 tickets to their show?
Well, here's the thing. Who's more at fault here? The promoters for booking him, the fans for buying the tickets, or Bob for continuing to do this? In your opinion, who's at fault?
The promoter, first and foremost, because they're telling Bob Sapp and they're telling the rest of the MMA community that he's worth $30,000 to $40,000. Now, again, the math on that is $600 to $850 general admission tickets. Now, a lot of shows in the U.S. don't even charge at $50 for general admission. So I'm just wondering why these promoters think he's worth that kind of money. And heck, those are the kind of promotions outside of the UFC that I'd have loved to have found a job with when I was competing on the smaller circuit. You know, if they've got that kind of money to give to one guy, that's not even going to fill 5 minutes of their time.
So
I really wonder how they're making it.
he seems to think that
their business planning is a bit odd to me. Bob himself, you know, bless him. I just wish someone would do what they did to the rest of us, you know, and make him hungry and actually tie up a lot of his money into the win bonus.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, those are the conditions I fought in. You know, I would make 500 to show up and 500 more to win. I'd make 2,000 to show up, another 1,000 to win, things like that. So I wish they were giving him $5,000 to show up and then telling him, hey, you can have $25,000 to win.
He seems to think that he is doing something bigger than MMA here, that he's putting out this statement that, you know, there's brain damage. And to that, you know, I was trying to say, like, well, why don't you just either train and try not to get hurt, or don't do this, or if you want to be a prostitute, then just admit what you're doing is throwing fights. He seems to think that he's doing something bigger. As an MMA fighter, are you offended by this?
Yes and no. I mean, it's very bothersome that he goes out and completely throws the fight. I understand what he's saying about not getting hurt, but at least Shannon Rich would, like, grapple with you in an earnest effort to rip your heel off. You know, he would go for a heel hook. If you stacked him and started punching him, he would tap. Or if you mounted him, he would tap without you even hitting him. You know, things like that. So at least he gave a half-ass effort. Bob's going out there ducking his head, grabbing the guy in a double leg and actually pulling some semblance of side control usually. And, you know, it's a bit gross. And the one promotion that really shocked me that took him on, especially after they watched him do this 12 or 13 times in a row, was Sydney CFC. I was, like, very, very disappointed that they'd have him come over there and fight Solo Falele.
Yeah. He did that just a couple of weeks ago, and I'm wondering, do they actually believe? I mean, are these guys dumb? Do they not think he's throwing the fights, or do they just think fans are stupid and are going to keep paying? I can understand in Kazakhstan, you're like, wow, let's go see this guy. What else is going on? But like,
I don't think the fans in Sydney are that stupid. I didn't think the promoters were, and you know, they proved me wrong. You know, and bless Soa. I know Soa's trying to get back into the UFC, and that's a big name, but that's not really a win that's going to impress Joe Silva.
Right.
To try to get him there, but you know, he's got to feed his family, so I'm not mad at him for taking the fight. It's just a bit foul how they promoted it, made it the main event, and you know, carried on with such a sham.
What percentage of fights, in your opinion, are thrown in MMA worldwide? I mean, obviously, you were once linked to something like this. That's why I'm asking you.
You know, I've not really known any thing like this, like, firsthand, but, you know, you hear about things like over in Japan, because it came from pro wrestling, you know, and because they have such talented grapplers, they could wrestle really hard and just not finish each other, you know, until later in the match, and then, hey, here's our spot, you know. So I didn't really, you know, hear about any specifics, but, you know, Mark Coleman's had one or two fights that looked a bit strange. I think one of them was against one of, like, the legendary Japanese guys, Funaki or something like that. But, yeah, I don't know. Percentage-wise, I don't think it's very high. And, my take on it would probably be more my experience when I was young. You pressure a guy and you put it on him, and you make it look like he's either going to get hurt or he has no chance to win. And the guy's going to give you a submission. You've seen guys get punched in the mouth that stick their arm up and beg you to take the arm, or just roll over and don't defend the choke. They're looking for a way out. So I don't think there's that many fights thrown pre-fight and prearranged. I just think after they've been hit pretty hard, they say, I don't really want to be here. This isn't for me.
Right.
At least not today.
All right, back to your fight this Friday, UFC on FX4. Do you have any idea? Is there a guy? Are you going to call someone out? Is there someone, in your opinion, that you need to fight after TJ if you beat him in order to advance your career here in the UFC?
I'm not sure what my future plans are. I don't know if I'm going to stay at welterweight after this fight.
You're going to drop down to 155?
I would like to go 4-0 in UFC and then make a bid at lightweight, yeah.
Wow.
I've been there. I fought lightweight in, I think, 2008 and 2009 for about a 12-month span. I was waking up at about 172 pounds every day without really trying. So if I can get my flow back, which I've really been trying this fight camp to stay eating clean and to naturally get down to 170, and I've done fairly well. I won't have to drop very much weight this week. And if I can keep that without getting back up to 200 pounds after this fight, so no bacon for me on Saturday morning, I think the next couple months could be very, very telling and possibly see me drop a weight class.
Anyone in particular at 155 that interests you?
I want someone at the top.
Yeah.
I want someone that's either beat Clay Guida or Clay Guida's beat himself. So, Maynard, Pettis, Ben Henderson, I want to start at the top of the division. I wouldn't mind beating up a Diaz.
Wow.
So, maybe Nate. Jim Miller's a talented dude. So, I want to start up there. I don't care if they're coming off a win, coming off a loss. I just want to prove I belong in that top 10, top 15.
What's your beef with your beef with the Diazes?
Nothing big. They're kind of got punk attitudes, and to be fair, I've seen Nick threaten you a time or two during interviews, so I don't really find that very professional or very kind. He's not a great ambassador for the sport. One hell of an athlete, though.
Right.
Running triathlons. He's done very, very well for himself in MMA. Weird boxing style that I think everyone has to kind of respect, even though they were laughing at it for quite a while, but he's proven it very, very effective. I don't know, just the way they mean mug and sometimes the way they look, those are the kind of guys that I actually don't really enjoy. Most other people, very much martial arts respect, honor. I'll bow in and bow out of the cage when I go to compete against them. But those guys I don't have a whole lot of time for.
I thought you were going to maybe say you were interested in fighting Josh Koscheck, just given some of the stuff you said about him and the way he's talked about AKA, but it sounds like that no longer interests you.
Oh, I'd fight him if they put him in front of me.
Yeah.
That's definitely not the case. But if I'm going to try to go get the lightweight title, he's not a fight that really helps me.